stuff out of nature, versus going to people's and buying something that says it's organic, says it's really great, but when you come to find out, oh yeah, just the coconut oil they used in there was organic, but everything else wasn't. And where did it come from? Who made it? And did they make it with intentions of love? And did they, this talk's not really structured, so I'm not really a structured person, and that's how I kind of view the plants, as they don't really have a structure either. They just kind of grow where they want to grow. They grow in disturbed soils. It's not like how when you grow a garden, you're gonna like make a line and then you're gonna put all these plants. You go out in nature, stuff's growing out of rocks, and it's just way different. And I find that to be really, fascinating, and also a good message to share with all of you. And let's see. Yeah, I really think they do have emotions. I think they do communicate psychically. It's a little out there for a lot of people, but I feel like plants have talked to me on certain different levels. Like all of a sudden, I just be like, I need this plant. I need to interact with this. Mugwort's a really good example of a plant that grows locally in California, and if you look into the folklore of it, like John the Baptist would wear like a thing of mugwort to protect himself when he would go into the forest. And like, why is that story around? There's obviously something to that. Whether it just keeps the bugs away, whether it does help you on a psychic level, or it helps it energetically to push things away. There's obviously a reason why that story is still around, and I really like interacting with mugwort, sage. There's multiple different sages here that you can make teas out of and grind up and use. Any questions?
What are the benefits of drinking sage tea?
Well, it's interesting that I find that people have a lot of respiratory issues in San Diego. A lot of people, asthma, born with asthma, coughing, especially this time of year. And most of the plants here that I noticed have an affinity for the lungs. And I find it really interesting to put those two together and be like, wait, there's a plant that grows here, many plants that grow here that are really good for the lungs. There's also a lot of people here with lung problems. Maybe those two might go together. For me they do. For other people they might not. But yeah, that would be
lung related.
Yeah.
Lung health.
Yeah, that's what I would use sage for. Everyone uses plants differently. I would use it as something to soothe the throat, and do something just good, an expectorant to get things out.
You need to burn it.
I don't think so. I think everything is like your intention behind what you're doing. It's like plants actually in the soil break down all the microbes and all the bugs and all that stuff breaks down, and the plants actually eat it, and grow from that. So really, plants are vegetarian, like they're eating bugs, and they're eating, bugs are actually feeding them with their poop and stuff, and it's really fascinating how the soil health, is really interesting as far as your own internal soil health. Like a healthy balance is something like between 80 and 85% friendly bacteria, and the same thing that goes for your stomach. You want to have 80 to 85% friendly bacteria, 20, 50% opportunistic bacteria, and it's all balanced. Like people will be like, oh well, bad bacteria is something that actually you want to have a balance between everything. If people have ever dealt with candida, it's something that's in your body naturally. There's a certain amount of it that you need. But what happens is, just how they treat the soil bad, they throw chemicals and, don't take care of the soil, polluted water gets on it, acid rain, whatever it is, it degrades the soil. Same thing when we put garbage in our body, it degrades our internal soil, and it's funny how those things are I think that was the whole point of this talk, is to really show the connection, plants need sun, plants need water, plants need nutrients, so do we. There's a really close connection to us and plants. And healing yourself, everyone's like, oh, plant-based diet, that's the best way to heal yourself from heart disease or whatever, and why is that? Are the plants here to help us? Did the plants create us to move them around? Are we a plant? Are we a part of that system? Obviously we're all a part of the earth. I think we've gotten so far away from nature have the wilderness stuff. How many people here can go out right now and just live in the wilderness? How much equipment would it take for you to live in the wilderness? Okay, Indians lived in the wilderness with just the wilderness. They didn't have anything. They had plants, they had animals, and that's what they used. And they lived, and they were, I would say they were probably stronger as a people. The domestication of plants and the domestication of humans is very close, Why did we domesticate plants? Well, because we wanted more, and we wanted to live in cities, we wanted to live together, we wanted to breed more and create more. So we needed that, But I think it's gotten to the point now where it's like we need to step back, and we need to go back a little bit and just kind of like reassess where we're going for the future, and also look at what's going on right now, and how can we use what we have, our technology, to create a better future and to create a more sustainable, balanced future, instead of I just find I've lived in the city my whole life. I grew up here, and I never felt very comfortable with it. I felt like people are very hostile at times, and when you go out to driving or something, the way people act, and I feel like they're actually just missing nature. They're actually missing a part, something that's very, a part of us is missing. And we're in our house and oh my God, the wind's coming in. Close it out. And we put on a spacesuit. We put a filter in to filter out all the bad air, and to basically put ourselves in a bubble. Work in a box, live in a box, eat food out of a box, and drive in a box. And I think that's a lot of the sickness, People aren't energetically getting out with the elements, We need all those elements, I think, in our lives. And I'm pulling from a lot of different speakers right now that I've heard, and their messages, and trying to find my own message. The plants really is where that starts for me, I kind of started juicing, right? What was I juicing? I was juicing plants. All of a sudden, brain activity, I was like, maybe I'm not as dyslexic as I thought I was, maybe I'm actually more intelligent. All of a sudden I was able to read more, and it really opened me up, and then that led on to herbs. What are herbs? I really got interested in herbs, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, you can buy a bunch of herbs, or you can learn about your local environment and go and find herbs, and it was a great introduction to my life, and it helped me a lot, and I just want to spread that message, hey, get to know plants, find plants in your area. There's so much stuff. Right now it's pine pollen season. How many people know about pine pollen? It's been used in Eastern medicine for over 3,000 years, and it's barely starting to get on. And even though Western herbalists are pine pollen, what's pine pollen? Basically, it's a testosterone whole food. So if you make a tincture from it and take it, it'll boost your testosterone as a man, or as a woman too. If you have over estrogen, it can help you balance out. But as the actual pollen, it's a great food substance. You can collect it, you can collect tons of it. Say one tree can produce 5 pounds of pollen in one day. It's just coming out everywhere. And what it does, it has plant sterols, which are basically plant steroids, and it lays down a whole big network of pollen all over the ground, and then when spring comes, all those plants are going to be taking those nutrients and springing up. And it's another example of how everything's kind of working together. And I feel like there's this whole thing working together, and I feel like we're kind of over here working almost against them. And if you study alchemists, one of the things in alchemy, one of their principles is that you never create anything out of balance of nature, because that creates pollution. And I think we can all see where that has gone. Yeah, you can dig oil out of the ground and synthesize it and make chemicals, 90,000 chemicals out of it. But what does that do to our environment? What does that do to us? It's out of balance. Where if you have a cleaner made from essential oils, you can breathe it, you can eat it. And I wouldn't want to use anything I couldn't eat. It wouldn't make sense to me, knowing those principles. And I find that interesting that people knew this in the 1400s, 1300s. People have known this the whole time. But somewhere along the line, I think we've kind of lost some vital knowledge. Yeah, okay, so there's a male cone and a female cone. And the female cone, everybody's like, see, like Christmas time, the cone. But the male cones, which are not really cones, but you'll see that there's yellow, basically pollen holders. You can go up there and you can either take a bag and just shake it, shake all the pollen in the bag, or you can just strip the whole thing and collect it and dry it and then break it up and collect the pollen, or throw it into a jar, like that much of it into a jar, another half, a little bit above it, put alcohol in it, tincture. So, yeah, it's very accessible. And some people are like, well, you live in the city. Would you want to wildcraft anything that lived in the city, We live in the city too. We're breathing the same air as the plants. So to me, it makes sense to ingest those plants. Obviously, you're going to want to stay away from parks and things that where they spray, But I think, if you're somewhere and you feel comfortable and you feel like it's, clean enough, then I would harvest from that area. What's that? You're right under the flight path too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all how you feel about it. Like, I don't like really things to be concrete and be like, no, you shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm under here, I'm setting up the same thing as the plants. Does that mean I don't eat the plants? Even in organic food, there's 7 or so chemicals that are allowed to put in the organic food that you ingest. And we're not going to get away from the society of toxic things. It's just like, okay, well, how do I deal with it? How do I learn about Corella and cilantro?
Then you're getting local again. You're
Exactly.
away from everything, and you're back in the book.
Exactly. You're back in the space bubble, your spacesuit on, and trying to get all the toxins away. I mean, we've got to live in it. But I think there's really good strategies. Like I said, Corella and cilantro, heavy metals. It's been known. Zeolites, clays, juice fasting, water fasting. I mean, whatever it is to clean the body. I think we spend a lot of time dirtying the body, but we don't spend a lot of time cleaning the body, and actually detoxifying ourselves, because we have so much subconscious stress, and we're living in such an unnatural environment that we're just like, we need something to make us feel better, basically. I think. And this is just my opinion. Like, I just like to talk and share it. It's not like anything serious. It's just things that I think about and I would like to share with you guys. Yeah, so plants to me are people. We're part of the plants, we're part of nature, we're part of the earth, and that's all I really wanted to share. Good.
A good source for local plants.
Good source for local plants?
Yeah.
John Finch at the Self-Heal School of Herbal Studies does herb walks about once a month. And you can go on selfhealschool.com, I believe. And that was how I actually started. I got interested in wildcrafting, and I went out on one walk, and it was like, whole world. Now when I drive, I'm like, oh my God, this big old sage bunch over there. It's opened my whole world up to realize that whoa, there's all these plants growing everywhere. I think so, yeah. You'll be able to, it's the only one that you'll see if you do a search on Self-Heal School. John Finch is a teacher. He's been teaching for 30 years.
So what do you guys do on walks then?
He does Mission Trails and the Dam at Santee, and then Marinbear Park off the 52. He has a few different places he goes to. Mission Trails, I think, is probably the best one because a lot of stuff is labeled, so you can go back. That's the trick, is once you go on one walk, it's cool to go back to the same area and be like, oh, can I find the same things, and develop those little relationships. I feel like I've developed actual relationships with plants where now I'm in an area and I'm like, there's mugwort right over there, there's water over there, there's going to be mugwort right down there, or there's going to be nettle, or there's going to be, I can kind of dial it in now, and just from a short time, it's a couple of years, I feel like, it's fun. It's up there with bird watching or any of the hiking, and with the survival stuff, say you are stranded, it's probably a good idea to know what plants you can eat. Pine trees are completely edible. Needles, make tea, eat the pollen, you can eat the nuts, you can actually eat the bark if you had to, the inner layer of the bark.